The United States is a pacifist state. The Middle East, pacifist state. But not as long as people have this horrible desire to own, to rule, to control. I have a neighbor like that. She wants to control everybody. As long as we have that, we got to get rid of that. And that's what Buddha told us to do. To give up these selfish desires. To give up these selfish desires. To give up me. I know what it is. We got to give up egoism. Give up self. Give up egoism. Give up self. Extinguish the self, you'll extinguish suffering, is what he was saying. He had desires, though. He had desires to pass this on to others. Hey, how do you figure that one out? It must be okay, though. And so one of his converts was Asaka. Asaka. No, it's Asoka. 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 3rd century BC. Pacifist state. Well, I have that dream too. And I have the dream that people will stop exploiting animals. That they will leave animals alone. Let them live their own lives and stop trying to make money off of them. And then they wonder why they have troubles. And then people wonder why they have troubles when they pay to have animals slaughtered and tortured and tormented and terrorized and bludgeoned. People wonder, why does the evil come to them? Stop and think of the evil that they do to the animals. But be clean of that. Be purified of that. Have nothing to do with that. These kitty cats are vegan. The 4 of them. I have a desire that Lenny Cat come home, happy, whole, and healthy. He was here Friday morning, up until Friday noon. We went to the museum. We haven't seen him since. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Come home, Lenny Cat, happy, whole, and healthy. It's not like him to leave the happy house and the happy yard and the happy meadow. It's not like him to leave it. Where is he? What happened? God knows where he is. If I were smart enough, I could listen to God and find out where he is and go get him. Asoka ruled for nearly 40 years, and Buddhism seemed destined to become the light of India. But his sons and guardians failed to remember the admonitions against war and luxury and conquest, and the Brahmins began their gradual, centuries-long drive to recapture the loyalty of the people. Eventually, the Buddhist shrines and monasteries in India were taken over or neglected. Asaka's dream of a pacifist state supported by subjects, treading the eightfold path of virtue, with their eyes upon the bliss of nirvana, faded from the world. India was not ready for so stern, so austere a faith. I do not call it stern or austere. I call it natural. That's the natural way to be. That's a happy way to be. The beautiful way to be. the fun way to be, the happy way to be. That's the way to be. And there's no other way. There's no other happiness. What noble service Buddhism rendered to Indian art is known to every student of sculpture and painting. The Buddhist holy books are among the world's foremost treasuries of spiritual literature. Mystic enrichment of life. Mystic enrichment of life. Mystic means walking with God. Enrichment of life. The enrichment of life is not in cigarettes, and it's not in the lottery. The ways of attainment. The ways of attainment. Our attainment is remembering all the goodness and the greatness and the happiness consequently, and the happiness of passing this on to others, sharing it with others. That's our happiness. That's our attainment. Of salvation. That's our salvation. What do you know? We finished page 74. No, 75. What do you know? There's only 86 pages to this. I think this is the 18th talk on it. We've been 18 half hours on it already. Well, it's in the Happy House, the page 76 and 77. So we will have to ad-lib. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, think no evil, and do no evil. And then there is nothing to fear. And do not fear death. Brother Lawrence would say, I have schooled myself to live continually in the presence of God. Woo! I have schooled myself to live continually in the presence of God. Doesn't that make you feel great? I have schooled myself to live continually in the presence of happiness. God is so vast in time and in space that our little minds cannot intercept God. But we can understand happiness. We see that, we hear that, we speak that, we feel that, we think that. We can intercept happiness. And we don't get this happiness by doing things for ourselves. Do we? We get it by doing things for others. Not just people, but also the animals. And Buddha attained the highest level of bliss. How do you do that, folks? How do you do that? Solitude and meditation. You know, a friend is somebody that you spend time with. And the more time you spend with a person, the more a friend that person is to you. Well, the more time you spend with God, the more God is your friend. Your oneness with God depends upon the time you spend with God. Brother Lawrence, I have schooled myself to live continually in the presence of God. Is it our nature to do that? Are we going upstream on this? Are we? Do we have to school ourselves? Is it adventitious? Adventitious is something that is acquired extrinsically. It is not necessarily inherent. It is not necessarily intrinsic. The presence of God, then, for us is extrinsic, is adventitious. It is not necessarily inherent. Tell me. I want to know. I want to know. Is that so? Oh, I guess it doesn't matter, because we still have only one thing to do, and that's to live continually in the presence of happiness. Our happiness? No, it's not our happiness. It's the happiness of others. And the happiness of others takes care of our happiness. I want to talk to you again about fearing death. Do you fear death? I really don't. For a few reasons. We've been given so much during our lives. We've been given so much. This air that we're breathing, this soil out of which these magnificent plants, as big as trees, grow. We're given a blue sky. We're given water. The miracle of rain. The miracle of rain. Do you understand it? I don't. The water comes down. From where? And the earth drinks it, and the plants drink it, and we drink it. We wouldn't live long without it. And then it goes up again. It evaporates. It rises again. Then after a few days, it comes down again. Makes everything clean and fresh. Do you understand it? How does God do that? So I don't fear death for those reasons that we've been given so much. Well, you can't count the blessings that you've been given. In a moment, the blessings in a moment, you couldn't count them. It would take, even in years, you couldn't count the blessings that are in one moment, could you? So that's one reason I don't fear death, is that I've been given enough. And as I say, even if I died when I was 50 or 30 or 20, I had been given enough. What more could you ask? And here I am 83. Look at all I've been given. And I don't fear death for another reason. It's God's will. It's God's will to have birth in a lifetime, the 7 ages of man that Shakespeare spoke about, the infant mewing and puking in his mother's arms. It's God's will. That's the way things are, and we're not going to change it. An- Another reason I don't fear death is that I'm trying so hard to live each moment perfectly. And if I live the present perfectly, then the future's going to be perfect. The past will be perfect. The present perfect will make the past perfect and make the future perfect. It sounds like a lesson in grammar, doesn't it? English grammar. Past perfect, present perfect, and future perfect. That's something that I would like to see people do, and speak their own language correctly. Just their own language correctly. Here these two young fellows I have working with me, just graduated from high school with honors, all A's, and they talk about me and him, we went and did this. Me and him, we went and did this. Him and me, we went and did this. There's a joke about that. The rich little lady, older lady, asked the youth who had just graduated from college, what did you major in? And he said, English, speaking, elocution, and advanced oratory. And she said, really? And he said, yeah. So, about fearing death. I'm ready for it. It will not take away my happiness. In fact, that's what we're living by, isn't it? We don't let anything make us unhappy. Even the United States Post Office. We don't let anything make us unhappy. What a loss. What a tragedy. What an awful thing to be unhappy even for a second. A second wasted. A minute wasted on unhappiness. Ooh, that's an awful thing. I used to know a dog, one of those long dogs, a dachshund. And their family had an old alarm clock. And some member of the family would wind it up. And the dog would take the alarm clock in his jaws and he'd go put it on the floor and he'd put his head on it and go to sleep by it. Okay. So I think we covered not being unhappy about death. I think another thing a person could do is to get his effects in order, what he wanted to leave others, whether it was his thinking or his writing or his possessions, although Buddha only had a toothstick, a razor, his underclothing, and a robe. I think that's all he had. And his fork, no. They had chopsticks. Anyway, that's all he had. But that's another thing why people die unhappy. They're worried about the things they're leaving behind. And those who believe in a heaven and an afterlife worry that they're not going to have all of the good things they had on earth. That's what Buddha said. No, being fearful of death is a selfish thing. If you're rid of self, you don't fear death. David Hartman on Good Morning America asked the Swami, he says, I'm going to die, you're going to die. Will my death be different from yours? And the Swami said yes. Because the Swami had no fear of death. Should I get up and go into the happy house and get those notes and use those as our jumping points for this meditation? I can tell you some of the meditations. I think it's a good idea. What do you think of it? I scratch your chinny chin chin and then I'll go in and I'll feed you. I'll feed you your nice vegan lunch. Meditation, surrender self. Tell me how to do that, will you please? Have we been talking about ourselves? Surrender self. Oh, I know. The 4 cats. They want to go outdoors and I don't want them to go outdoors. So I surrender myself and open the door for them. They want to come in, I don't want them to come in. So I open the door and let them in. He wants me to get up right now and feed him, but I've got to stay here with you for another 8 minutes. So I'm not surrendering myself. Surrender self. Giving money to charities. Boy, there's enough of those. So many letters come in from the people helping animals, friends of animals, gladly, to reduce the suffering of kittens and puppies. A letter came in that somebody captures dogs and cats and uses their fur to sell to people as clothing, as ornaments, and how to stop people from that. How to stop people from slaughtering cows and pigs and hens and turkeys and fish. Surrender self. Buddha had only 1 meal a day. Well, I've done that for years, just 1 meal a day. One woman said her husband ate only 1 meal a day. It started in the morning and ended at night. But that's a good thing, only 1 meal a day, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A regimen of saintly eating. That's a good thing too. That's surrendering self, isn't it? Regimen of saintly eating. A cereal, a hot cereal. Peanut butter on crackers. No leaven bread, because the yeast think they're going to have their lives and live and complete their cycles, and they're burned to death. No leavened bread, crackers, or biscuits, my own biscuits. Oh, that's leaven though, but with baking powder. No yeast bread, I guess I should have said. Nut fruit drink. Pineapple juice, cashews, bananas, and oatmeal flakes in a blender. Great shake. Great thick shake. Raisins and walnuts, something like that. Nuts. Cashews. No. Pecans. Almonds. Brazil nuts. Hazelnuts. And then a fresh fruit. Last night it was watermelon. Such a creation. Such a creation. That green skin, that green covering, and inside that beautiful red. And I share it with the animals who come at night. The raccoons, and they love watermelon. And the skunks, and there's an opossum, Pogo. And I think there's a groundhog. They come at night. And in the morning, 8 or 9 plates are all licked clean. Oh, I gave them corn on the cob last night too. And cooked oatmeal. And I tried last night seeing if they would eat raw oatmeal. Okay. So we ad-libbed it and winged it, so to speak. And now it's time to put away the August happiness talks. Go put the titles on them. Go make the dubs for the TV stations. And go upload them to the YouTube.